Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Meeting will come to order. First of all, Pledge of Allegiance, please rise.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first order of business. I have two proxies here. I hold proxy for Jerry Barron Jr. And Sandy, who is joining us by Zoom, has proxy for Tia Bidwell. It is a stipulated proxy.
For those viewing at home, right now the country club is getting its roof redone, so you may hear some banging. We would like to have asked them to stop, but since it's supposed to rain tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., they have to finish up. So you may hear a little banging. Second thing is, if you are viewing from home, you can go onto our website and you can print out the entire packet so you can follow along with the board as we go through the meeting.
I don't believe that we have any changes or additions to the agenda, Tom?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. First item that we will take up, celebrating success. Doug?
Is Lee Cronky here? Lee and Rick Eccles. Rick is going to present to Lee. Right hand. Testing 1, 2, 3. Lee Cronky, if you could come forward, please, along with Rick Eccles. Rick is going to present to Lee tonight.
Good evening. Well, due to my neglect last month, I was a little late in getting this submitted, but here we are. And I wanted to recognize Lee, and it's not for what he did, it's how he did it. So Ranger Lee was making his normal rounds on the Loch Lomond Trail when he observed an elderly man fall to the ground. Lee rushed over for assistance, which I think we would have all done that. He observed that the man did not appear to be hurt, but was very shaken. Lee helped him to his feet and did not let go until he was convinced that the man was stable. And this is where I think Lee deserves recognition. Lee dusted his hat off and handed it to the man. The elderly gentleman thanked Lee and told him he was prepared to meet his maker. Lee continued to watch him until he was able to get to his car, watching him for his stability and making sure that he was mentally clear enough to drive. And I think that's what set Lee apart in this situation, to make sure that the man was capable of driving and in a safe manner. So for that, we'd like to recognize Lee for celebrating success. Thank you.
Next, we have Scott Hansen. Scott, if you could come forward, please. Come on up, Scott. You were nominated for celebrating success this month by our very own Kim Carlson. And so we're excited to have you here tonight. So what Scott did was he saw that a popular neighborhood tree in the Metfield area was going to be destroyed with the Metfield connector construction. It was right in the middle of the way. He saw that it was going to have to be taken out. This is a tree that is decorated by people in the neighborhood. He coordinated the replanting of the tree, and we posted this on the POA Facebook page. Within 24 hours, we had 113 positive reactions and 21 positive comments. Many people were thanking Scott for his initiative to save the tree and his commitment to his community. And if you all saw the Weekly Vista yesterday, there was a write-up in there and a picture of the tree that Scott saved. So it's near and dear to many people's heart, I understand. So thank you, Scott, for your dedicated service. I guess I can get this. Congratulations.
It's always fun recognizing that. Next up, approval of the minutes. First is the September 24th, last month's regular board meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Mary and
Second.
Jan. Is there any discussion or questions? Okay, call for a vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mike has joined us. Mike is also Zooming. The second item, October 15th, the board work session. I have a motion to approve those minutes.
Here moved.
Mike, a second?
Second.
Mary seconds that. Any questions or discussion? We'll call for a vote then. All in favor, raise your...
Aye.
All ayes.
Sandy, did you vote both in favor on behalf of Tia?
She didn't direct me in regard to the minutes, so she said anything that she didn't direct to abstain from.
Very good. So
So I'm voting for myself
Okay.
for the minute.
Thank you. So 8-0.
8-0. Okay. Next item, reports from the joint advisory committees. First up is Lakes.
On this one?
Yeah, it's already on.
Is it on?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll just do a short, quick recap of our Lake Committee meeting. Drawdown of Lake Rayburn is on schedule. It will start November 9th. It started November 9th, or it will start November 9th, complete December 4th, and then refill will begin on 3/1 next year. I want to commend the Rick and his Rangers. Last year, they removed 1,535 people from POA property. This year, by now, there's probably been over 4,000 removed. So they've really done a great job in that effort to keep with the spirit of the 2020 plan. Another wake boat study was done last year. We had a study, and then we did another one this year. The Lake Committee attempted to set up criteria that would simulate as many possible things as we could to show the impact of wake boats. Rick and his team, about 6 of his people, made a tremendous effort. We got a volunteer on Loch Lomond with a boat. We did 200 feet out, which is the new regulation. We did with the waves directed into shore, which is not per regulations. We did waves towards the center of the lake, as regulations require. We did it multiple times. We did it in wakeboard mode. We did it in surf mode. We did it in a parade fashion with 4 or 5 other boats to try to simulate a choppy lake and that kind of stuff. And the end result showed clearly that the 200-foot limit had a major impact. It also showed that there were 3 to 4 inches smaller waves if the waves were directed to the center of the lake versus to the shore. And that's what the regulation was last year, was to go 200 foot from shore and direct waves to the center. I think this really will conclude the discussion with the wake boats and pretty much settles that with the new regulations, we can live with the impact of what they do. Then the last subject is the proposed regulation changes that we've submitted. And I can kind of cover those quickly and see if you have any questions. The first proposal is basically a safety regulation requesting that boats cruise the lake in a counterclockwise direction, basically staying on the right side of the lake, right-hand side. And that will reduce congestion and possibility of head-on collisions. I think this is something that most boaters do, but it's really not been in the regulations. So we felt that it was necessary to put that in there. Any questions on that one? Maybe we'll cover questions on each one separately.
And for those viewing at home and have printed out the board packet, we are right now on page 74 of these proposed changes.
Okay. The next proposal we discussed at the work session last month, and that's setting a limit of 26 feet and longer will not be permitted on POA lakes. There was some revision done on the language. It really hasn't changed from what we talked about at the work session. We are going to grandfather the 2 or 3 boats that exist, or any boat that exists as of 12/31 this year, as long as they continue to re-register and have no lapse and maintain ownership of the boat, they will be allowed to continue to register their boat. But other than that, 26 foot or longer will be prohibited. Any questions on that? Okay, the third item is a safety issue. We're encouraging people that stop their watercraft, pontoon boats, stop, middle of the lake, anchor, swim. We're encouraging that they do that in no wake zones. Basically because if you get on Lake Windsor or Lake Anne, the skiing area for skiers or towing individuals gets relatively narrow. And if a boat stops and people are swimming around it, it really creates a lot of traffic and a lot of danger in a small space. So we're encouraging them to do that in no wake zones, which every lake has no wake zones. But we're still allowing swimming at docks and along the shore out 100 foot, because that's also a no wake zone. So we're not stopping anybody from swimming from their property or their docks. We're just trying to prevent swimming in the middle of skiing and towing areas. Questions on that one? And the final one has to do with skiing and towing individuals. We're asking that a person, if they lose their skier or their people they're towing, we're asking them to turn left. That would be similar to a clockwise direction on the lake. We're trying to do that so people that are following or other people on the lake know what's going to happen. And we're also asking for people to maintain at least a 200-foot distance from the individual being skiing or being towed. If somebody falls off and you're closer than 200 feet, you don't have time to react. So it's strictly a safety precaution and something we're suggesting people do. Any questions on that? Okay. I do want to thank Rick Eccles and his team for all the effort they put in on the wake boat testing. The group did a great job, and they videotaped it, and they're going to work on that, and I think release that to the public here in the near future. But they did a great job and made real efforts to do it as factual as possible. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arrow.
Next on the agenda is recreation. Is there anyone here from recreation, Tom?
Yeah, Chris is here.
Okay, good.
Good evening, folks. Chris Stockman here from the Recreation Committee. We met last on October 12th, and I have a readout from the key point of our meeting. So basically, all the amenities continue to be in pretty good condition, commenting on things are looking good, and the utilities that service them are all in good working order and everything. So just a couple notable points from each of the different amenities here. So at Rorton Hall, the space in the main auditorium has been reworked to accommodate the fitness classes. So this is in respect to easing of the pandemic restrictions a little bit, get that activity going again. But out in the park, several small maintenance items were noted for working, and staff took note of that and took that to action. At the gun ranges, new plexiglass the plexiglass divider was installed for safety purposes. Over at London Park, a couple of members commented that they were having a little difficulty in getting their kayaks out of the water over there. So they suggested that an improvement to launching kayaks would be greatly appreciated. Over at Loch Lomond Recreation Complex, there was just some small maintenance issues that were reported to staff for actioning. At the Lake Ann Park, the committee member visited during an event that the Fly Tires were having, and they were under the pavilion, and things were going really well. But there was some member feedback that they would appreciate more parking near the pavilion there, so that you wouldn't have to put your vehicles all along the grass in that park area. Moving over to the Blowing Springs Park, we took feedback that folks would really like to be able to book online reservations for camping, because they said that the desk to call into was really hard to get a hold of. Moving on then to Tanyard Creek Park. So this park remains very busy and popular with a lot of out-of-town visitors too. We noted that there's a lot of dogs and pets that come along for the walk, and it was suggested that there be a doggy cleanup station to be a nice enhancement to that trail there. And also, some folks would be interested in printed maps of that particular trail. So that's the highlights for the amenities. We discussed some new business, and that entailed just a readout of the 2021 budget projects that we recommended. And so these are those projects. Repair of the Kingsdale Pool, repair of the Kingsdale Tennis Courts, upgrading or repairing and improving the mini golf courses, expanding the tiny cabins at Blowing Springs, and finally over at Loch Lomond, the selling of an underutilized bass boat, and perhaps bringing in then a more family-oriented sport boat. So those were the projects that were recommended for consideration in the 2021 budget cycle. And then the final parts of our meeting were the traditional staff reports. And highlights from those were from Lakes, Parks, and Fisheries, would be that the lakes were stocked with some catfish and will be stocked with some grass carp. And the lakes that received these fish were Loch Lomond, Windsor, and Lake Ann. That department also hired an engineer to certify the safety of the swinging bridge at Tanyard Creek. And moving over to the gun ranges, they continue to be real popular this year. 80% increase in September over September of 2019. And they've got a project to rebuild the house there to trap and skeet. And the final section, the recreation section, they noted that camping has been holding its own at 90 to 95% capacity, even in spite of all the craft activities and the craft fairs that were usually held at this year but were canceled. And they're building a storage unit at the Avalon Beach. They need more space for kayak storage. And also, as a Halloween event, they're working on an event called the Not So Haunted House Drive-Through, which is going to be at Blowing Springs. And so that's how things went on October 12th. The next time we get together will be on November 9th at 4 o'clock here in this boardroom. And that's about it for the Recreation Committee.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, thanks, folks.
Next up would be golf. Jason?
Hello, Jason Lloyd from the Golf Committee. Last meeting, October 14th. I'll make it short and sweet. Once again, as we've been saying all year, golf is absolutely tremendous. We are over 18,500 rounds from last year, year to date, which brought us in at 132, 443 for rounds. The breakdown, 98.8 for members, which is up almost 15,000, and 33.6, which is 37.50 for non-members. The driving range numbers, here's another really cool number. Year to date, 47,682 buckets of balls. That's incredible. 34,600 over last year, so hopefully some handicaps are coming down too. Mine is not. Next month, which is a neat thing for Burksdale Golf Course, the final Audubon certification visit will be on Burksdale. We will be the second course in Arkansas to get the certification. So special thanks to Wendy Barnes for leading this work and completing it with minimal funding. From a
That's
member's,
awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. From a member's suggestion, we voted and passed to add 50-yard markers on all of our driving ranges over the winter, so people could work on their short game a little better. We are going to work on tee boxes, a few tee boxes on the forward tees or red tees on Country Club, Scottsdale, and Highlands over the winter. The bad news coming in is we are dry this year, surprisingly, over the last couple of years. But the grass is a little worse for wear, about 30 days earlier than normal, starting to slow and stop growing. So we're trying to figure out a way to keep grass in the fairways through the winter time. We're trying to stay away from carts on path, so we voted on and going to try to do. We're working on the details, but it's a forward motion in the fairways, all on cart paths. You can go in the rough, but really stick hard to the 90-degree rule. So it's just going to need to police it ourselves so we can have a little bit of grass to play on through the winter time. Due to COVID restrictions, we will be 3 tee times through the winter. And on a sad note, Bruce Fleming from the Country Club is retiring after 11 years of the POA, so we're going to miss him, and we wish him very well. Next meeting is the 17th. We are moving to our morning 8:30, so 17th at 8:30 a.m. right here in the boardroom. If anybody wants to zoom in, watch, and all that good stuff. Any questions from anyone? Nope. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jason. Now we get the financial reports. I believe Stacy will handle that for us.
Oh. I didn't touch it. All right. One more time. There we go. The financial reports are included in this presentation, are posted out on the POA's website, which is on the screen. You're welcome to go out and review those at any point in time and let us know if you have any questions. So talking about September. September was another great month for the POA. Revenue, we were up $87,000 better than budget for the month, and we're up $244,000 better than last year. So again, a great September. Year-to-date wins that we're looking at, our boat registrations and rentals are up $109,000 year-to-date. Our foreclosed lots are up $117,000. Our green fees for guests and members are up $219,000. Areas where we are worse than budget year-to-date, the POA overall, we're still down $235,000 year-to-date, but we are better than last month, like I said, by $87,000, so we're making ground. Overall, F&B still dealing with the COVID restrictions, and they're down $346,000 year-to-date. Annual green fees and cart rentals are down $95,000, and our classes are down $34,000, again due to COVID restrictions. From a gross profit perspective, and you can see the gross profit changes in the graph to the right, the POA gross profit year-to-date versus budget is down $85,000, but again, we're making ground. We were down $172,000 last month, but in September, again, we're up the $87,000 that I spoke of a minute ago. The POA gross profit year over year, we're down $511,000, but that is due to the cell tower sale that you can see on the graph. Wins better than budget year to date. Our pro shop is up $15,000 due to basically inventory management, and our golf area is up $102 year to date in the green fees and the golf cart rentals. And our lakes are up $57,000 in boat registration. Risks really is just in the F&B space again due to COVID, and Tommy's going to talk about that in a minute. But they're down $262,000 year to date from a gross profit perspective. So again, a great September. Talking about expenses. So expenses worse than budget really is safety and health supplies, $27,000 because of COVID cleaning. Our legal area is over budget by $46,000 because of the fire. And our rebates, we are worse than budget in the rebate area by $26,000. We just haven't had the vendor spin that provides the rebates in that area. And better than budget, again, we're in salary and employee benefits, $469,000. Supplies of $64,000, maintenance and repairs of $44,000, and utilities of $94,000. And you can see all three, the budget last year and this year, in the charts to the right. And you can kind of see where our higher spend is and where our lower spend is, and kind of the trends that we're seeing year over year. So some key financial performance indicators that I wanted to call out. So first of all, EBITDA is better than budget year to date by $994,000. So again, a great September, great year. Even with COVID. And if the other highlighted one is expenses, our expenses are under budget by $1.1 million year to date. So the second bullet point I thought was worth calling out, and that's in our food and beverage division. Overall, they had a positive EBITDA of $5,000 for the month of September. So even with all of the restrictions going on with the restaurants, that team pulled it together and had a positive EBITDA. So hats off to our food and beverage area. And then our 2019 expense and EBITDA has the fire in it, so that's why it looks so different. If you look at the chart on the bottom left, you'll see the POA expenses by month, and you can see that the green line is our 2020 actual, which is trending lower than our budget, and then 2019 is the purple, which is quite a bit higher again because of the fire. On the right side, you'll see the EBITDA by month in the charts. And the purple, again, is last year, which has the cell tower sale, and it has the Trafalgar fire in it. And then the green is our 2020 actual number, and our orange is our 2020 budget. So again, you can see how the orange and the green are kind of trending, and our 2020 actual for EBITDA is over our orange consistently. From a POA salary and employee benefit standpoint, again, our salary and benefits are better than budget by $469,000 year to date. And our salaries and wages are better the prior year by $113,000. Employee benefits are better than budget by $204 year to date, and employee benefits are better than last year by $130. So in the middle, I really wanted to call out for our BB Bar and Grill, that they had an outstanding September. Again, food and beverage really had a great month. They did not hit revenue by $8,000, and they didn't hit gross margin by 2, but they did hit EBITDA by 2. So positive month on EBITDA, which means they did a really good job of managing their costs and their expenses to come in under budget in revenue, but be able to hit the bottom line. So again, Tommy and team did a great job on the food, at all the food and beverage, but the bar and grill I wanted to speak of especially. So we'll now talk about water, and again, the financials are out on the website if you have any questions or want to review them later. The water also had a great September. So some of the wins that are better than budget. Overall, our water income is up $774,000. Our water sales are up $465,000, and our transfer fees are up $297,000. Really nothing to report that's a risk or that's below budget on the water. From a gross profit standpoint, our wins, overall water continues to run at a 72% margin consistently. September gross profit was better than budget by $129,000. And overall, water year-to-date is better than budget by $1.1 million and better than last year by $1.2. So consistently doing well there, and nothing to report from a risk standpoint. So water expenses, same thing as we talked about for the POA. You can see on the chart kind of the trending from last year, this year, and budget. Worse than budget really is just in the supplies. Water installation is $99,000. And maintenance and repairs, the water distribution is $30,000. Both of these kind of go in line with the increase in sales for water. And then better than budget is salaries and employee benefits by $58,000, the fuel by $10,000, membership training and travel by $9,000, and credit card fees by $10,000. So doing well. Key financial performances for water. So EBITDA is better than budget year to date by $1 million and better than last year by $987,000. And this is attributed to the increase in water sales year to date, as well as the year-over-year margin increase that we're seeing. Expenses are slightly over budget in September by $6,000 and year to date by $73,000. Again, that is increase is attributed primarily to the water system installation expense we just talked about. The middle top is kind of an overall snapshot of water year to date, and you can just see how the gross profit, expenses, and EBITDA kind of all go together. Bottom left is the water expense by month. Again, you can see the 2020 green is the 2020 line actuals. The 2020 budget is orange, and the purple is the 2019. So again, our expenses are falling right in line with our budget for this year, and just a little over what was last year. EBITDA by month, actual, budget, and year-to-date. The box on the bottom right, you can see, again, consistently 2020 is well above budget and last year as well. So doing well in water. So let's talk a little bit about the water loan. So our balance on September 30th is down to 1.92, so we're just under $2 million. We actually paid back $175,000 in September, and if you remember last month, we talked about how we might have to borrow, but we did not have to because we had such a great month. And Tom, you took my slide too fast. You're losing it. Yeah. Our 2020 year-to-date payments have totaled $1.6 million that we have paid so far this year against the request of $280,000, and the interest income that the water has received from the POA is $37,000 year-to-date. Now you can flip it. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure. So September EBITDA variances to budget. You can see all of our departments. This is just kind of a department view again of EBITDA. All of our departments are trending well above budget for EBITDA, except for food and beverage, which we've talked about, general income, and membership services. And they're all really close, but overall, it's a good year. All right, so the water loan. So we talked about this chart a little bit last month. So we updated it. You can see where the $175,000 that we paid back in September, we're trending down, and now we're trending back up in October and November. And again, just as a reminder, we're going into our lower cash months as we come into the end of the year, and so I'm still projecting that we will probably have to borrow in October If we have a really good October, it may not be as much as I'm projecting, but I still believe we may have to borrow in October, as well as November. And then I'm hoping that the deferred revenue will come in the prepayments in December, and we'll bring that back down. So I still project we ended about $2.4 million at the end of the year. Just talk about cash a little bit. Let's switch to the balance sheet. So we're sitting with water unrestricted cash of $4.5 million. If you look at the balance sheet, it says 4.7. The difference is the $162,000 I have marked as reserved, because that is the rest of the bond payment that we're required to pay this year. The water restricted is $776. Those are the payments we've already made into the water account for the payment that's due in January. And then the POA has $15,000 unreserved cash, and we have $98.4 in the reserves related to the 2020 plan that we committed to. And then the circles off to the right is just kind of another picture of that, so you can kind of see what makes up all the cash with the POA. And the last slide is just kind of for information purposes. It's just some metrics that I think are interesting. So if you look at September 2020, activity cards, we still issued 700 of those at $17,000. If you look at that compared to last year, we did 425. Our guest cards are 773 issued against last year, September, of 157. Boat registrations still issued 148 of those. Our ACH drafts are up. We've set up or changed 508 accounts in the month of September. Our monetary requirements are still up. They're 492 compared to 347. And then our collections in September were a little over $100,000. Year-to-date collections has made $1.1 million. So I won't go through all those numbers, but I'd be happy to answer questions if you have any. So that's the financials. Questions?
Love your charts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
You do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we have a review of the restaurants by Tommy Lee.
Yes, sir. Okay, we're calling this working our way out of the COVID hole. As you can see, this is our trailing 12 dating back to November of 19, where we were trending well above 100% of the previous year, even really peaking out in January, which is very, very unusual. February, we were having a good month, and then mid-November, when we were almost at 60% of our sales, COVID hit, and we had to shut the restaurants down. They remained shut through April, which most of those sales there are curbside and delivery, and we reopened on May 11th. As you can see, sales in June jumped pretty well, and then in July, we had a little, we tripped up a little bit. We had a false positive, but we wanted to be safer and surer than anything else, so we closed BV down for a few days and sanitized the entire area, and then reopened. And going into August, you can see the steady climb from August to September. And looking at our sales in October right now, we're projecting to be well over 100%, climbing into those ranges where we were at this time last year. How it was done, immediately upon reopening, dining tables at both BV Bar and Grill and Lake Point were spread throughout the banquet event spaces to optimize dining, and still maintain the 66% that was required by the governor. So that really gave us a tremendous advantage over other area restaurants that were confined to the box that they were in. Both restaurants have and still maintain stringent adherence to the governor's mandates. I would even say that we go above and beyond because we have space sanitized frequently and do things that aren't even required. We did, with the help of Kim and her team, we did some aggressive advertising and promotions that really were successful at bringing people, keeping people in the restaurants, keeping them in the habit of coming to the restaurants. So that helped out quite a bit. Lake Point maintained flexibility in order to accommodate new and existing events. What we do is we get a U-Haul, put all the furniture in the U-Haul, put out the banquet furniture, have the event, and then flip it back over. It's been very successful. Patios, decks, and terraces have been rearranged. We've expanded the dining areas, and that's really helping a lot too. And even to extend on that, I've purchased heaters for this fall, so hopefully we can continue our outdoor dining a little past season. And then we just continue to work hard to provide excellent products and services. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Any questions?
Just a comment, you've done an amazing job in a time when a lot of restaurants are
Mary?
pretty much failing. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Anything else? All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Tommy. Good news in the restaurants. I know that a lot of times when I'm here, I see lots of people here enjoying, and they tell me they feel comfortable and safe when they come to Lake Point and BV's. So, thank you very much. Last month's open forum comments and questions. Were there any, Tom?
There were none.
None, okay. At this time, we have one letter a property owner asked to be read.
Yes. Can you hear me? Okay. This letter is from Steve McKee, Tyree Place. To the board, we applaud the park and lake rangers for removing thousands of unsponsored visitors from our member-paid-for private park and lake properties. We understand that there were one-time workarounds to the 2020 plan, such as the cancer shoot at the gun range or the kayak demo day at Avalon Beach. We know, however, that the 2020 plan designated only 3 parks as open to the public: Blowing Springs, Metfield Skills Park, Tanyard Creek. All other parks and parking areas except for golf lots like by Papa Mike's are for members and their guests. Lakes are for members and their guests only. We have heard the critical message: if a non-member with no guest pass goes to beaches, pools, Branchwood Park, lakes, fitness facilities, etc., they will be asked to leave. The POA will not issue guest passes to get around this issue. About 700 POA members signed a petition with the following bulleted points: to prohibit all spur trails built to any of our 7 private lakes, to restrict all events and tournaments to members and their guests, to prohibit the rental of POA boats to non-members, unsponsored visitors, to prohibit events, classes, and tournaments that may include non-members, unsponsored visitors, to instruct management and committees to support and enforce these things, to provide 2021 budget funding to ensure these things: gates, signage, rangers, information, etc. The sole 2 exceptions may be the annual 3rd Loch Lomond Park, not the lake, and the Ambassador Program, sponsored passes, free one-time 3-day access to all amenities. The members ask their duly elected representatives to not ignore us, to represent the members, and to fulfill these specific bulleted points. Thank you.
Thank you. Response? Is there anybody in, outside the door who would like to come in at this time? We have no one signed up. Nobody. Okay. Tom?
So in response to Mr. McKee's email, so I would first like to thank Mr. McKee for recognizing that our POA Lake Rangers have removed, in his words, thousands of non-members to date. Our Lake Rangers have removed 4,058 non-members from our lakes this year compared to 1,499 last year. So the POA is fulfilling the commitment made in the 2020 plan to keep our lakes for our members and guests only. I would also like to thank Mr. McKee for acknowledging the POA's critical message to the membership that, quote, if a non-member with no guest pass goes to the beach, pools, lakes, fitness center, etc., they will be asked to leave. The POA will not issue guest passes to get around this issue, end quote. This demonstrates that the POA is fulfilling the commitments made in the 2020 plan. I do think it's a little contradictory that, in his words, we should, quote, restrict all events and tournaments to members and their guests, end quote. Yet he acknowledges that the 2020 plan stipulated well in advance that there would be a few exceptions, and he himself asked for 2 exceptions to his own rule. These few exceptions that are allowed by the POA must go through a rigorous approval process to ensure there is no abuse. And we've discussed this at length in previous meetings. I do remain concerned that the 700 POA members that signed the petition may not have been given all of the facts. I asked Mr. McKee to share all these names and email addresses so that the POA can first verify that each of the signers is in fact a member, and second, that we can share with them all of the facts regarding this issue.
Thank you.
Have we received a response from Mr. McKee regarding that request?
No, that, it was just read and that was the response, so we have not heard anything yet.
Okay.
Okay. At this time, we move on with boating regulations that have been proposed. We heard earlier a fairly detailed explanation of what the Lakes Committee would like to see us do. We're on page 73, if you're following along in the board packet. There are the changes that were read earlier.
If the board were to pass this, it will, first of all, it would only require 1 vote. Its policies require 2 votes. Changes to voting regulations only requires 1 vote. And what we would like to do is have these changes approved, if not this month, at least next month, because we would want to have a sufficient time to print brochures, because we start doing renewals in December. So that's really the timeline. If the board is accepting of these changes at this meeting, that would be outstanding. But we do have a little bit of a time crunch to ensure that we get this in the brochure, so we get it in the hands of all renewals for the coming year.
Okay, the first thing that we need is a motion to approve.
Are we going to do all of them at the same time?
Yes, we are.
Okay. I move that we approve the 4 changes to the fishing, boating, and water sports regulations.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Mary and David Welchel. Okay, now, is there any discussion?
And Errol from the Lakes Committee came back in if anybody has a question.
Yeah, we had a very good explanation of why and what they're trying to do. We've talked about this. I don't see anybody having any questions, so I'm just going to go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor of approving these regulations, this is...
And I'm always making those
Aye.
eyes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye.
It is unanimous.
It's amazing.
The regulations are going to be printed, Errol. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Good common sense approach. The next one is a second reading of bylaws, Article 7, Association Officers and Management. This is you found on page 76. And it has...
And just a reminder for those that are viewing at home, policy changes require 2 votes. Normally, policy changes start at the Rules and Regulations Committee. It goes through a work session and a vote, and that was the first vote. It goes through another work session, and then this would be the second vote. So this would be the 5th time. So sometimes we have property owners that will comment that the board will vote to enact a new policy, yet there's very little discussion about it, but they don't realize that there was 4 other meetings that there was potentially lengthy discussions.
Okay. Article 7 has to do with when the corporate officers are reported and subsequently reported to the state. We had a request to change it from June, just after new board members take their seats, to January. Delay it just a little bit. The state doesn't care as long as we tell them. So The change is to move to January. Do I hear a motion to approve the second reading?
So moved.
Jan?
I'll second.
Sandy seconds. Is there, I wouldn't expect there's any discussion, but does anybody have anything? Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor, signify by raising
Aye.
your hand, say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Moving on to the next one. This is the second reading of policy 1.04. And this was found on page 79 and starting on 80. This has to do with background check authorization for members wishing to serve on joint advisory committees. And that's it. That's what we were going to do, okay? I need a motion to do the second reading.
So moved.
I'll
There-
second.
Okay. Motioned and seconded. Any more discussion? I'll call for the vote. Yes.
I have a comment. David, I just want to say that I do think that we need to pass this. I know there was some discussion in regard to whether we should restrict committee members using emails. And, I just want to remind everyone that we did have issues during the last election. And, if we need to go through that to convince anyone, we certainly can. And I'm not opposed to just leaving it with the word emails in it, because that's all encompassing of the emails. It's the email address, it's the person's name, it's any
Sandy?
information that is in the POA email. So I don't think that that should be used for elections. Or as Tom indicated, if somebody is, has any business pursuits.
Okay. That, Sandy, that is policy 3.04. That one is on the agenda for today too, but it's not policy 1.04. Right now,
Okay.
we're just talking.
Hang on just a second then.
Yeah, it is.
1.04 is not the background checks?
Yeah, it is.
104 is the background check.
And the emails.
The,
And the email.
It's both.
And the email. It's at the back of it, the very end of it.
I need to pay, okay.
That's what I was addressing.
Yes.
I'm not opposed to the background checks. Doug indicated that he feels that we can defend ourselves if anyone has
Okay.
a problem with that, so I'm relying on that.
Yeah, we talked about this in the work session for an amount of time, and I think that we pretty much came to the consensus that we felt comfortable adding addresses and saying email addresses. And so at this time, if we want to change that, we have a motion on the floor, so we need a motion to amend to add addresses after emails. Email addresses, change emails to email addresses.
And
correct,
that's
Doug?
why I indicated that I am not opposed to just leaving it with the word emails, because that includes everything. It includes the person's name, it includes their email address, and it includes the content in the email, which should only be used for POA business.
Doug, I just want to confirm from a legal perspective, is she 100% correct that if it was, using the word emails or email addresses?
I mean, it would be, if you add emails and email addresses, it's more specific, but I feel like, saying emails is sufficient to cover everything that's included in emails.
All right, so that's a yes.
You think that's?
Yes.
Okay, so there we have a legal opinion that the way it's written and presented for a second reading is sufficient. So I'm not hearing a motion to amend, so we'll forget that idea. I'm seeing no further discussion, so I will call for a vote to approve on the second reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
There we go, unanimous. Okay, thank you, Sandy. Next up, second reading of policy 2.05. This is the regulation of common property. This is hunting specifically. This has to do with asking our bow hunters to register their vehicle with the POA so that we know that a member, if we get called to a situation and there's a vehicle parked along the road, our park rangers will know that this is a member, not somebody trying to sneak in. And that's the intent of this, is to keep non-members out and to just keep everybody safe by knowing that these people have registered a vehicle. So that's pretty much.
If this is approved by the board, the intent is to implement this the next hunting season. Current hunting season already in place, so we would be implementing it next hunting season.
This is correct. It's a little late for this year, but it's a change that we need to make in keeping with the intent of the 2020 plan. So first thing I'll need is a motion to approve on the second reading. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the Rules and Regulations Committee recommended changes to policy 2.05. Is that where we are?
3.04.
2.05.
2.05 is noted. This is
205, yes.
This is the second of two required readings.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mary seconds. Okay, now we have discussion.
Yes, I have a comment on it. You talked about that this is to register their vehicle. I don't see that anywhere in it at all. This is to obtain a hunting permit, not to register a vehicle. Is that something that's added?
No, Jerry is correct. At one point, the idea was to register the vehicle, but then that ended up getting struck. You're correct, Jerry. If you look on page 85, you'll see towards the bottom of the page, at one point, the conversation with the board was to add that second sentence, and then that was subsequently struck.
Yes, that sentence was struck because we did not want to make any of our members' vehicles targets of people who may be against hunting or other nefarious activities. Any other discussion?
I think it's good.
I'll call for the vote then. All in favor of approving 2.05 for second reading?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Jerry Hover is opposed. It is now policy. Next up, 3.04.
It's on page 87 of your board packet.
Yes, 87.
And the changes to that are actually on the towards the bottom of page 88.
Has to do with the Branchwood Walking Trail. Do I hear a motion to approve on second reading?
I'll make a motion to approve 3.04.
Sandy makes a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
David Welch will seconds. Open for discussion.
I have a comment. I do think this is the right thing to do. You know, we paid $564,168 was the bid on this project. We also paid with POA funds $33,000 to design the trail. And with most projects, there were probably cost overruns. And then in addition to that, there was an expense to fill in the pond on 9. So I do think that it should be designated. And I was told when I was appointed to the board that it already was private. So I think this just reiterates what our intention is with the trail. We indicated Branchwood would be private, and you know, if the Branchwood Trail and the Loch Lomond Dam Trail, and I think there's one at Tyree also, if those are not the trails referred to in here as paved and unpaved trails, which are, you know, not open to the public, then I'm not quite sure what the rest of that sentence is even indicating. But you know, I think that in keeping with the 2020 plan, I think it's a good thing to make it indicating that it is for members and their guests only.
Are there any other comments?
I agree, Sandy.
No other comments? Okay, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of approving second reading, policy 3.04, signify by raising your hand. 1, 2,
Aye.
3. Mike?
Aye.
4. All those opposed?
Tia is opposed.
Tia said no. That's 5 no, 4 yes. Not approved. Next up, second reading of policy 9.04, board election and political candidates' use of facilities. The change in question, the red ink says, salaried members of senior staff, while conducting association business, shall not endorse any candidate running for the board. Likewise, the board shall not endorse any candidate running for the board. And that's the change. Do I hear a motion to approve on the second reading?
So moved.
Thank you, Jan. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mary seconds. Any discussion on this? Hearing none?
I would just like to say that again, I am against this because I do feel that senior staff has a huge conflict of interest, and I do not feel that they should be out campaigning for the very people that are going to approve or disapprove projects and or salaries. And I guess that's it.
Okay. Any others? I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving on the second reading, signify by raising your hands or saying aye.
Tia is for.
T is for. All those opposed? Sandy?
6-2. What about Mike?
Mike, how did you vote? Can you repeat that?
Aye.
Thank you.
7-2.
7-2. It is now policy. That brings us to the announcements. The next Board of Directors GM meeting is Thursday, November 5th, 9 a.m., right here in the boardroom. This is a closed meeting and it lasts for quite a few hours. This will be the presentation of the budget by senior staff. On Monday, November 9th, will be a recreation joint meeting, joint advisory committee meeting, 4 p.m. right here. Wednesday, November 11th at 8:30 a.m. Golf, JAC, right here. Lakes canceled their November meeting. The Board of Directors work session, the community budget presentation is on Thursday, November 12th, at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom. This usually happens in Reardon Hall, and it's not happening there this year. The regular session for the board, Thursday, November 19th, 6 p.m. here in the boardroom. This is a date change. It's a little bit earlier because we don't want to do it on Thanksgiving. The December GM, Board of Directors GM meeting, December 3rd, 4 p.m. right here, and this is a closed meeting. Golf will meet again on Wednesday, December 9th at 8:30 a.m. Lakes in December, the 9th, 2 p.m. here in the boardroom. And the work session, December the 10th at 9 a.m. right here. Recreation, JAC, Monday, December 14th, 4 p.m. here in the boardroom. And the December regular monthly meeting will be Thursday, the 17th at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom. And that should bring us to a conclusion. Is there anything else? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Have a good weekend. Thank you all.
We adjourned.
I'll take that as an adjournment.